Part 5. The Verdict Hour Zero. The deadline had passed. Above the three council homeworlds, the black ships remained in position. They had not fired. They had not moved. They simply waited, like executioners standing over condemned prisoners. On the Velthari homeworld, 3 billion beings looked up at the vessel hovering in their sky. It was close enough that they could see its shape clearly, a massive wedge of darkness that blotted out the stars. Parents held their children. Elders prayed to gods they were not sure existed. Everyone wondered if these were their last moments. In the council chamber on Council Prime, an emergency session had been called. Every representative was present, connected via hologram if they could not attend in person. The chamber that had once echoed with pride and power now reeked of fear. Elder Counselor Thren stood at the central podium. He was ancient even by galactic standards, 600 years old, his body kept alive by technology and sheer stubborn will. He had witnessed the rise of empires and their fall. He had seen species evolve and go extinct, and now he spoke with the weight of all those years behind his words. "This council has made a grave error," he began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "We executed a peacemaker. We murdered a diplomat sent to us in good faith. We did this to prove our strength, to show a young species their place. Instead, we have awakened something we did not understand. The humans were weak," someone protested from the upper galleries. "We had no way to know. We had every way to know." Thren's voice cracked like thunder. "Do you know what I did after Ambassador Hyunwoo's arrest? I researched humanity. I studied their history. And I found something in our archives, records so old that most of you have never seen them." A hologram appeared above the chamber, showing ancient text in a language that predated most modern species. "These are precursor writings, the beings who existed millions of years before any of us. They left warnings scattered across the galaxy, meant for whoever would come after them." Thren read from the text. "Beware the inheritors. You will know them by 3 signs. They are adaptable, surviving in conditions that would kill others. They are persistent, refusing to give up even when defeat seems certain. And they are social, forming bonds that transcend individual survival. When you meet them, treat them with respect, for they will either be your greatest allies or your complete destruction. There is no middle ground." Silence fell across the chamber. Thren continued, his ancient eyes sweeping across the gathered representatives. "The precursors were describing humanity. Earth is their homeworld, the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly ended them. The species that went from crude tools to spaceflight in 10,000 years. The species that builds families and friendships that last lifetimes. They are the inheritors the precursors warned about, and we executed one of them to prove a point." "What are you saying, Elder?" High Arbiter Velnash asked, his voice shaking. "I am saying that we are fortunate that humans value justice over vengeance. Any other species with this power would have destroyed us already. Look at what they've done. They eliminated our military, yes, but they have not touched a single civilian. Not one. They could have wiped out entire worlds, but they chose restraint. That is not weakness. That is strength we cannot comprehend." The chamber exploded into arguments. Some demanded surrender. Others wanted to keep fighting, to die with honor rather than submit. Through it all, Thren stood silent, waiting. Finally, a transmission came through from Earth. President Daun's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. She looked tired but unbending. "Members of the Galactic Council, I am here to accept your surrender." "We have not surrendered," Kreltos roared. "We will never." "Yes, you have," Daun said calmly. "You surrendered the moment you realized that your weapons could not save you. Your fleets are destroyed. Your defenses are gone. 47 of my ships hold your 3 homeworlds hostage. I can end your civilization with a single command. So yes, you have surrendered. The only question now is what terms you will accept." Velnash stepped forward, his pride visibly crumbling. "What do you want?" "First, you will return Ambassador Hyunwoo's body to Earth with full honors. Second, you will issue a formal public apology to humanity for his murder. Third, the Galactic Council will be restructured. No more species supremacy. No more hierarchies based on age or power. Every member species gets equal representation and equal rights. Fourth, independent oversight committees will be established to prevent abuses of power. And fifth, humanity will have full autonomy in our space, with the right to expand, trade, and make alliances as we see fit." "And if we refuse?" someone asked. Daeun's expression did not change. Then I will give the order, and your 3 homeworlds will cease to exist. Not destroyed in fire, but simply unmade, erased from the universe. Your species will survive on your colonies, but you will never forget what happened here. You will tell your children and your children's children about the day you murdered a human peacemaker, and how humanity responded by showing you mercy you did not deserve. Elder Thren spoke up. I vote to accept all terms immediately. All in favor? The vote was unanimous. In less than 5 minutes, the council agreed to every demand. There was no debate, no negotiation. They had been beaten, and they knew it. 3 days later, a ship arrived at Council Prime carrying Yunji. She was 19 years old, dressed in formal black, her face composed despite the grief that tore at her heart. She walked into the council chamber where her father had been executed, flanked by Captain Jiwan and Commander Wu Jin. The chamber was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. High Arbiter Velnash himself brought forth a container holding Hyunwoo's remains. He placed it before Yunji and bowed his head. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for the murder of your father. His death was an injustice. We were wrong. We hope in time that humanity can forgive us. Yunji looked at the alien who had ordered her father's execution. She saw the fear in his eyes, the understanding that he lived only because she and Earth chose to let him live. She took the container gently in her hands. My father believed in peace, she said, her voice clear and strong despite the tears on her cheeks. He believed that different species could work together, that understanding was possible, that the galaxy could be better than it was. You killed him for those beliefs. You thought murdering him would make humanity weak, would teach us to be afraid. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with dozens of different species. You were wrong. My father's death did not make us weak. It made us determined. You taught us that peace requires strength, that extending friendship means nothing if you cannot defend yourself. We will never forget that lesson. But we also won't forget what my father wanted. A galaxy where all species are equal, where justice means something, where peace is possible, but only because everyone knows the cost of breaking it. Elder Thren stepped forward. Your father has been declared a martyr of galactic peace. His name will be remembered alongside the greatest diplomats in history. We are establishing the Hyunwoo Memorial Foundation for Interspecies Cooperation. If you would accept, we would like you to lead it. Yunji wiped her tears. I accept. But know this, Elder Counselor. Humanity extends its hand in friendship today. But if anyone tries to harm us again, if anyone thinks we have forgotten what happened here, they will learn that we remember everything. We remember friendship and we remember betrayal. Choose wisely which one you want us to remember about you. The ceremony ended. Yunji carried her father's remains back to Earth, where he was buried with honors reserved for heroes. Millions attended the funeral. President Daeun gave the eulogy, speaking of sacrifice and the price of peace. In orbit above Earth, invisible to telescopes and sensors, the Nightfall fleet remained on standby. Commander Wu Jin sat in his command chair, watching as Earth's blue curve filled his screens. All ships remain in stealth mode, he ordered. We stay vigilant. The Council has learned their lesson, but lessons can be forgotten. Dr. Hyron stood beside him. Do you think we did the right thing? We did what was necessary. My only regret is that Hyunwoo had to die for it. He would have wanted us to show mercy. And we did. We could have destroyed them completely. Instead, we gave them a chance to be better. That's more than they gave him. Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humanity had defeated the Galactic Council and then shown mercy. They had restructured galactic politics in a week, fundamentally changing how species interacted. They had gone from being dismissed as weak newcomers to being feared and respected as a major power. And through it all, they had not lost themselves. They had not become conquerors or tyrants. They had simply made it clear that there were consequences for injustice. On Council Prime, Minister Jae-sung watched a human colony ship departing for a newly claimed system. The humans were expanding now, taking their place among the stars. Other species gave them space, treated them with respect, remembered what happened to those who did not. He thought about the execution he had witnessed, about Hyunwoo's final words that the broadcast had not captured, but that he had read on the dead man's lips. Earth will remember this. Part 4. The Reaping Hour 71 of the Countdown. Council Prime Station buzzed with normal activity. Merchants traded goods. Diplomats negotiated treaties. The execution of the human ambassador was already becoming old news. Just another example of the Council maintaining order. Life went on. Admiral Kreltos sat in his command center reviewing fleet deployments. The humans had sent their pathetic ultimatum, and now the deadline was almost up. He had 500 warships positioned around Council space, ready to respond if Earth tried anything foolish. It would be amusing to watch them try. "Admiral, we're detecting unusual energy readings," one of his officers reported. "What kind of readings?" "Unknown, sir. They're coming from multiple points across the sector. It's like space itself is tearing." Kreltos moved to the sensor display. What he saw made no sense. Dimensional rifts were opening, but not the clean hyperspace windows that ships used for travel. These were ragged holes in reality, bleeding dark energy that made his sensors scream warnings. "Battle stations," he ordered. All ships to... The first Nightfall vessel emerged from a rift right in front of his flagship. It was massive, black as the void between stars and covered in patterns that hurt to look at. The ship seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear as a hole in space itself. "Fire!" Kreltos roared. "Destroy that thing!" 100 warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, particle beams. Every weapon the Council had developed over thousands of years. The barrage hit the black ship and simply vanished, absorbed by shields that should not exist. Then the black ship fired back. A beam of pure darkness lanced out, touching Kreltos's flagship. The beam passed through shields as if they were not there. Wherever it touched, matter simply ceased to exist. Atoms were unmade, returning to the void. In 3 seconds, the flagship was gone. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Admiral Kreltos's last thought was confusion. Then he was nothing. Commander Subin stood on the bridge of ESS Retribution, watching as her vessel eliminated the Council fleet. Her crew worked with cold efficiency, targeting military ships with precision. Civilian vessels were ignored. Colony transports were allowed to flee, but every warship, every weapons platform, every military station was systematically destroyed. Message from Fleet Command. Her communications officer reported. Nightfall. 2 through 47 have engaged across all Council sectors. All targets are being neutralized as planned. Subin nodded. Around her, displays showed the same scene repeating across the galaxy. 47 black ships had appeared simultaneously at every major Council military installation. The element of surprise was total. The Council had no idea these vessels existed, no defense against their weapons, no way to fight back. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Just like what they did to Hyunwoo, Captain Jiwon watched from the ESS horizon, still orbiting Council Prime. She had been ordered to stay back, to observe and report. Her crew stood at their stations, silent and shocked by what they were witnessing. Captain, we're receiving transmissions from Council vessels, her communications officer said. They're begging for mercy. Some are surrendering. What are the Nightfall ships doing? If they power down weapons and retreat, they're being allowed to leave. Any ship that continues fighting is destroyed. Jiwon felt something loosen in her chest. They were not monsters. This was about justice, not genocide. On Earth, reporter Minho broadcast live to the entire planet. For those just joining us, humanity's Nightfall fleet has engaged Council military forces across the galaxy. In the past 12 hours, we have confirmed the destruction of over 3,000 Council warships. Our forces have suffered 0 casualties. I repeat, 0 casualties. Behind him, crowds cheered. The protests that had started after Hyunwoo's execution had transformed into celebrations. People danced in the streets waving Earth flags, shouting their defiance at the galaxy that had looked down on them. To the species watching this broadcast, Minho continued, his voice serious now, understand what you're seeing. The Galactic Council executed our ambassador because they thought we were weak. They thought humans would bow and accept injustice. They were wrong. We offered you friendship. We extended hands in peace. You answered with murder. So now you see what happens when you kill the peacemakers. Now you understand that humanity is not weak. We are patient. There is a difference. Across Council space, panic spread like wildfire. Worlds that had celebrated Hyunwoo's execution now watched their defenders crumble. The 3 Council homeworlds went dark as all orbital defenses were systematically eliminated. The black ships held position above each planet. visible to billions of aliens who looked up at the sky and knew they could die at any moment. High Arbiter Velnash sat in his chambers, staring at reports that made no sense. 47 vessels. 47 vessels had destroyed the combined military might of thousands of species in less than 2 days. It was impossible. Humans were primitive, barely into space travel with no technology that could threaten the Council. How? He whispered. How did they do this? Minister Jae-sung stood nearby, his expression grim. I tried to warn you. I told you humans were dangerous. But their technology, their ships, we scanned their system. And you found exactly what they wanted you to find. These vessels were built in secret, hidden in places you never thought to look. They've been planning this for decades. We need to negotiate. Contact Earth immediately. Tell them we'll return their ambassador's body. We'll apologize. We'll give them anything they want. Jae-sung shook his head slowly. I've been trying to contact them for 6 hours. They're not responding. They said 72 hours. They meant it. We have... He checked his chronometer. 14 hours left before the deadline expires. What happens then, I don't know. But I suspect we'll find out. Velnash felt fear for the first time in his long life. His species had ruled the Council for 3,000 years. They had conquered worlds, crushed rebellions, maintained order through strength. And now, one primitive species had brought them to their knees in 2 days. Send a message on all frequencies, he said desperately. Tell them we surrender. Tell them we'll meet any demands. Just tell them to stop. I'll try. But High Arbiter, you need to understand something. The humans aren't angry. Anger is hot and quick. This is cold, calculated. They planned every detail of this operation. They knew exactly what they were going to do the moment you arrested their ambassador. Maybe before that. They're not going to stop until they're satisfied that you understand the lesson. What lesson? That humanity remembers. They remember friendship, and they remember betrayal, and they always make certain that those who wrong them pay the price. Across the galaxy, the Nightfall fleet held position. Not one ship pursued fleeing vessels. Not one weapon fired at civilian targets. They simply waited, black and silent, while below them, trillions of beings understood for the first time what it meant to be powerless. The countdown continued. 14 hours remaining, then 13, then 12. The question now was not whether the Council would apologize. The question was whether humanity would accept the apology, or whether the next 12 hours would bring annihilation. Part 3. The awakening 50 years ago, the first human colony ship had landed on Mars. The crew expected red dust and empty rocks. Instead, they found ruins. Ancient structures buried beneath the surface built by a civilization that had died long before humanity learned to make fire. The discovery changed everything. Commander Wu Jin remembered the stories from those early days. He had been just a child when the precursor ruins were found, but everyone on Earth knew what happened next. The artifacts, the technology, the warnings written in symbols that took decades to translate, and most importantly, the weapons. Now, Wu Jin stood in the command center of Nightfall Station, hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Jupiter. Around him, displays showed the 47 ships of the Nightfall fleet waking up from decades of hibernation. Each vessel was a perfect fusion of human engineering and precursor technology, black as the void and twice as deadly. All ships reporting ready status, reported his second officer. Weapon systems charging, dimensional drives online. We can execute on your order, Commander. Wu Jin nodded slowly. He had trained for this moment his entire career, but he had never truly believed it would come. The Nightfall Protocol was supposed to be a last resort, a weapon so terrible that just knowing it existed would keep Earth safe. They had been wrong. Dr. Hyrin entered the command center, her face troubled. She was the lead scientist who had spent 20 years studying precursor technology, learning its secrets, teaching humanity how to use it. She had also been the loudest voice arguing against weaponizing what they found. Commander, I need to speak with you, she said. Doctor, we're in the middle of final preparations. I know. That's why I need to speak with you now. Hyrin moved closer, lowering her voice. The precursors didn't just leave us technology. They left us warnings. Do you know what happened to them? They died out millions of years ago. Some kind of war, not just any war. They destroyed themselves. Their weapons became so powerful that they annihilated entire star systems. By the time they realized what they had done, it was too late. The last of them built these ruins as warnings. They hoped whoever found them would be wiser. Wu Jin studied the scientist's face. Are you saying we shouldn't use the Nightfall fleet? I'm saying we should think very carefully about what we're about to do. Once we demonstrate this power, there's no going back. Other species will fear us. Some will try to destroy us before we become too powerful. We could start the very cycle that killed the precursors. The Council executed our ambassador. They murdered him and broadcast it to the entire galaxy. What would you have us do, accept it? Bow our heads and beg for mercy? No. But there's a difference between justice and annihilation. Before Wu Jin could respond, a priority message came through from Earth. President Daun's face appeared on the main display. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past few days. Commander Wu Jin, Dr. Hai-Rin, I've received the Council's response to our demands. And? Wu Jin asked, though he already knew the answer. They're refusing. High Arbiter Vel Nash sent a personal message. He said Earth should be grateful they're only expelling us from Council space instead of destroying our planet. He said we're savages who don't understand civilization. He suggested we spend the next few centuries thinking about our crimes. Hai-Rin closed her eyes. Wu Jin felt his hands curl into fists. Daun continued, I want you to understand what we're about to do. This isn't revenge. This is about survival. If we accept this, every species in the galaxy will think they can treat us the same way. Our people will be killed, enslaved, pushed around forever. Is that the future you want for humanity? No, Mr. President, Wu Jin said firmly. Dr. Hai-Rin, I know your concerns. I've read your reports about the precursors. But we're not them. We're not going to destroy ourselves. We're going to show the Council that humanity is not weak, that we will not be victims, that there are consequences for murdering our people. Hai-Rin opened her eyes and looked at the President. After a long moment, she nodded. I understand, Mr. President, but please think carefully about how far we go. Power is easy to use. Restraint is harder. I know. Daun's expression softened slightly. That's why I trust both of you to carry this out. The Nightfall Protocol is now active. Earth has sent a final transmission to the Council. We're telling them they have 72 hours to return Ambassador Hyunwoo's body and issue a formal apology. If they refuse, they will face the consequences. They'll think we're bluffing, Wu Jin said. Good, let them think that. When the time comes, show them the truth. But Commander, listen carefully. You are to target only military installations. No civilian populations. No colonies. No merchant vessels. We're not murderers like them. We're delivering justice. Understood, Mr. President. The transmission ended. Wu Jin turned to his crew. All ships prepare for deployment. Countdown begins now. 72 hours until we show the galaxy what humanity has been hiding. Across the solar system, in hidden locations that had been prepared decades ago, the other Nightfall vessels received their orders. Each ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long, built from materials that did not exist in nature. They could travel through dimensions, appearing anywhere in the galaxy without using hyperspace. Their weapons could phase through any shield and unmake matter at the molecular level. They were the most advanced warships in known space, and until this moment, no one except a handful of humans even knew they existed. On Council Prime, Minister Jae-sung received Earth's message and felt his blood run cold. He was a Velthari, like most of the Council leadership, but he had spent years working with humans. He knew them better than most. He knew that they smiled easily, made friends quickly, and seemed almost naive in their optimism. He also knew they had a history of extreme violence when pushed too far. Their own planet was still scarred from wars that nearly destroyed them. They had killed millions of their own kind in conflicts over resources, territory, and ideas, and then they had somehow learned to stop, to cooperate, to build a unified civilization. But that violence was still there, buried beneath the surface. And now the Council had awakened it. Jae-sung went immediately to the High Arbiters. You need to listen to me. Earth's message is not a bluff. I've studied human history. When they make threats, they follow through. Vel Nash laughed. One species, barely a century into space travel, threatens the entire Galactic Council? This is desperation, nothing more. Then why are they giving you 72 hours? Why not attack immediately if they're so desperate? Because they're trying to save face. They want to look strong before they slink away like wounded animals. You're wrong, Jae-sung said urgently. I'm telling you, humans are dangerous when cornered. We should at least investigate their military capabilities. Enough, Kreltos growled. We have scanned their solar system 1,000 times. They have nothing that can threaten us. Stop spreading panic. Jae-sung left the chamber, his heart's pounding. The council was making a terrible mistake, but they would not listen. He sent a coded message to friends on the council worlds. Get underground. Move your families to shelters. Something bad is coming. Most ignored him. A few listened. In 72 hours, those few would be the only survivors. Part 2. The execution president Daun sat in the emergency command center deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by screens showing data from across the solar system. Her face was pale, her hands clasped so tightly together that her knuckles had turned white. Around the table sat the most powerful people in Earth's government, but none of them had answers. They're calling it a trial, Dr. Young-soo said quietly. He was head of Earth's Xenopolitical Analysis Division, a thin man with glasses who looked like he had not slept in days. But we all know what it really is. They're going to execute Hyunwoo to send a message. What kind of message? Demanded Admiral Taemin. The military commander was a large man with a scarred face and hands that looked like they could crush stone. That they can murder our people whenever they want? Yes, Young-soo said simply. That's exactly the message. They want to see if we'll submit or fight back. If we accept this, we'll never be anything more than servants in their empire. President Daeun finally spoke, her voice heavy with exhaustion. What are our options? We can send the fleet, Taemin said immediately. Every ship we have. Fight our way to Council Prime and extract our ambassador. They outnumber us 50-1, another general said. We'd lose every ship and probably start a war that would end with Earth being bombed into ash. Then what do you suggest? We just let them kill him. The room fell silent. No one wanted to say it, but they all knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. Not openly. President Daeun's communicator buzzed. She looked at the screen and her expression changed. It's starting. They're broadcasting it on all council channels. Someone activated the main display. The image showed the council chamber, filled with thousands of alien beings. In the center stood Hyunwoo, hands bound, surrounded by guards. He looked small and alone, but his head was held high. High Arbiter Velnash's voice boomed through the chamber. The human known as Hyunwoo has been found guilty of crimes against the Galactic Council. The sentence is death, to be carried out immediately, so that all species may witness the price of defiance. In the command center, someone gasped. Admiral Taemin slammed his fist on the table. Mr. President, we cannot allow this. Be silent, Daeun said, her eyes fixed on the screen. We owe him the respect of watching. On the display, Hyunwoo was being strapped into a strange chair. Devices were attached to his head, glowing with an eerie light. A Velthari technician operated controls nearby. Velnash continued speaking. Let this serve as a lesson. The Council is eternal. The Council is absolute. Those who challenge our authority will face the same fate. The technician activated the devices. Hyunwoo's body went rigid. His face contorted in agony, but he made no sound. The neural disintegrator was designed to destroy the brain cell by cell, keeping the victim conscious as long as possible. It was not a quick death. Across Earth, billions of people watched in horror, in homes, in public squares, on screens everywhere. They saw their ambassador dying slowly while aliens watched with satisfaction. Some people wept. Others screamed in rage. Protests erupted in every major city, crowds gathering to demand action. In a university dormitory, Yoonji sat frozen in front of her screen. Her roommate held her hand, but Yoonji could not feel it. She watched her father die and felt something inside her break. The last thing she saw before her vision blurred with tears was her father's lips moving, forming words the broadcast did not capture. The execution took 14 minutes. When it was over, Hyunwoo's body slumped in the chair, lifeless. The council chamber erupted in what might have been approval from some species, silence from others. This concludes the sentence, Velnash announced. Let the humans take their dead and remember this day. The broadcast ended. In the command center, no one moved. President Daeun stared at the blank screen, her face like stone. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Admiral Taemin, stay. Everyone else filed out silently, leaving only the president and the admiral. For a long moment, neither spoke. They didn't just kill him, Daeun said finally. They humiliated us. They broadcast it to the entire galaxy to show that humans are weak, that we can't protect our own people. Yes, Mr. President. And now every species in the council will think they can do the same. push us around, take our resources, kill our citizens, because we're not strong enough to stop them. Yes, Mr. President, Dayun turned to face Taimin. Her eyes were red, but her expression was cold fury. Activate Protocol Nightfall. The Admiral's face went white. Mr. President, are you certain? Once we start this, there's no going back. The consequences. I know the consequences, Dawen interrupted. I've thought of nothing else since they arrested Hyunwoo. The question is simple. Do we accept being the Council's servants forever? Or do we show them what happens when you murder our peacemakers? The weapon. It's not fully tested. We don't know if all the systems will work. Then we'll find out. Dayun walked to the window that looked out over the command center below. Send a message to the Council. Tell them we demand the immediate return of Ambassador Hyunwoo's body. Tell them we want a formal apology. Tell them they have 72 hours to comply. They'll refuse. I know. Dayun smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. And then we'll teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Humanity tried peace. We extended friendship. We followed their rules. They responded by executing our ambassador like a common criminal. She turned back to Taimin. No more activate Nightfall. Prepare all 47 vessels. And Admiral? Yes, Mr. President. When the time comes, show them that humanity remembers. We remember every slight, every insult, every death, and we always make sure those who wrong us understand the cost. Taimin saluted. It will be done, Mr. President. As the Admiral left to carry out his orders, Daun returned to the window. Below, technicians and officers worked at their stations unaware of what was about to begin. On screens around the room, news feeds showed the protests spreading across Earth. People were angry. They wanted justice, they would have it. One way or another, they would have it. Dayun thought of Hyunwoo, who had died believing in peace and diplomacy. She thought of his daughter Yoonji, who would grow up knowing her father had been murdered by the very beings he tried to befriend. She thought of every human who watched that execution and felt helpless, powerless, weak. They wanted to see what happens when they corner humanity. She whispered to the empty room. They're about to find out. Far away on Council Prime Station, the Galactic Council celebrated their victory. They had put the humans in their place. They had shown every species watching that the Council's authority was absolute. They did not know that Earth's message was already traveling toward them through space. They did not know about the countdown that had just begun. And they certainly did not know about the 47 black ships that were, at that very moment, awakening from decades of sleep in the dark spaces between stars. Part 1. The Diplomatic Mission. The massive station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of steel and light. Council Prime Station was the heart of galactic civilization, where hundreds of alien species gathered to trade, negotiate, and rule over thousands of worlds. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood at the window of his quarters watching ships come and go. His reflection stared back at him, a man of 47 years with tired eyes and graying hair at his temples. He had been preparing for this moment for 3 months. Today he would address the Galactic Council and request something that no human had dared ask before. Earth wanted independence, real independence, the right to trade with other species without going through council monopolies, the right to expand into unclaimed systems without asking permission, the right to be treated as equals, not as newcomers who should be grateful for scraps. His communicator buzzed. Captain Ji-won's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious as always. She commanded the ESS Horizon, the diplomatic escort vessel that had brought Hyunwoo to this place. Ambassador, we've detected increased military traffic around the station. Something feels wrong. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. They're trying to intimidate us before the session even begins. Stay alert, Captain, but do not provoke them. We're here for peace. Yes, sir. But if they threaten you, you will follow your orders and stand down, Hyunwoo said firmly. One ship cannot fight the entire council fleet. We knew the risks when we came here. The captain's jaw tightened, but she nodded. The screen went dark. Hyunwoo touched the small photograph he kept in his pocket. His daughter Yoonji smiled back at him, frozen in a moment of happiness from 2 years ago. She was 19 now, studying xenobiology at university. She had begged him not to take this assignment. They don't respect us, Dad, she had said. They'll never give us what we're asking for. He had kissed her forehead and told her that someone had to try. That was what diplomats did. They tried even when the odds were against them. The summons came an hour later. Hyunwoo walked through the sterile corridors of Council Prime. flanked by 2 Veltari guards. They were tall creatures, easily 8 feet high, with blue-gray skin and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. They did not speak to him. They never did. The council chamber was enormous, designed to make individual beings feel small. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers around a central platform. Representatives from across the galaxy filled those seats, watching with eyes and sensors and organs that Hyunwoo could not name. At the highest point sat the 3 High Arbiters, the most powerful beings in known space. Hyunwoo stepped onto the platform. The lights focused on him, bright and hot. He felt every eye in the chamber upon him. High Arbiter Vel Nash spoke first, his voice amplified to fill the vast space. "The human wishes to address this council. We grant permission to speak." "Thank you, High Arbiter," Hyunwoo began. His voice was steady despite the fear coiled in his belly. "I come before you today to discuss Earth's position within the Galactic Council. For 15 years, humanity has followed every rule, paid every tax, and honored every agreement. We have contributed our resources, our technology, and our labor to the prosperity of this alliance." He paused, looking around the chamber. Some faces showed curiosity. Others showed contempt. "But we are not truly members of this council. We are subjects. We cannot trade freely. We cannot expand freely. Every decision we make must be approved by species who see us as children. We have proven ourselves. We ask now to be recognized as equals." The chamber erupted in noise. Clicks, hisses, roars, and sounds that Hyunwoo's translator could not interpret. High Arbiter Vel Nash raised one long-fingered hand and silence fell. "The human speaks of equality," Vel Nash said, and there was something dangerous in his tone. "Yet humanity has been part of this council for barely a moment in galactic time. You have one world, one system. You possess no great technology, no vast fleets, no ancient wisdom. What makes you think you deserve the same rights as species who have existed for millennia?" Hyunwoo had expected this. Because rights are not earned by age or power. They are inherent. Every sentient species deserves autonomy and respect. "Pretty words," said Arbiter Kreltos, a massive creature covered in crystalline scales. "But we did not build this council on pretty words. We built it on order, on hierarchy, on knowing one's place." The 3rd Arbiter, Silurian Prime Thex, leaned forward. "There is another matter we must address. We have received reports that human vessels have been surveying systems in the Outer Rim, systems that are restricted by council decree." Hyunwoo felt ice form in his chest. "Those surveys were for scientific purposes only, and we filed the proper notifications." "You filed nothing," Vel Nash interrupted. "We have evidence that humanity is expanding in secret, violating treaties, preparing for rebellion." "That's not true," Hyunwoo said, his voice rising despite himself. "Show me this evidence." A hologram appeared above the platform. It showed human ships marked with Earth's insignia, entering forbidden space. Timestamps, coordinates, scanner readings. It looked damning. It was also completely fabricated. Hyunwoo knew this because he had personally reviewed every human expedition for the past year. None had gone to those coordinates. "This is false," he said clearly. "Someone has doctored these records. We have done nothing wrong." "The human calls this council liars," Kreltos growled. "Perhaps we have been too lenient with your species." The chamber filled with voices again, louder now, angry. Hyunwoo tried to speak, tried to present the real data from Earth's archives, but his voice was drowned out. He realized with growing horror that the truth did not matter. This was a show trial. They had decided his fate before he ever entered this room. Vel Nash stood, his immense form seeming to fill the chamber. "This council finds the human government guilty of territorial violations and conspiracy to undermine council authority. As the representative of Earth, Ambassador Hyunwoo, you are placed under arrest. You will be held accountable for your species' crimes." Guards moved toward the platform. Hyunwoo's hand shook, but he forced himself to stand tall. "You're making a mistake. Earth will not accept this injustice. Earth will accept what we decree," Vel Nash said coldly. "Or Earth will face the consequences of defiance." The guard seized Hyunwoo's arms. As they dragged him away, he managed to activate his communicator one last time. "Captain Ji-won, protocol Nightfall. Tell Yoonji I tried." Then the guards tore the device from his hand and he was pulled into darkness.